Hello and welcome to my channel, Testing the Limits. Today we have a 9206E and we're going to be replacing the motor. Now with these things, the motor lasts for a really long while, but eventually, like all motors, they burn out. I have looked across the web, even everywhere on YouTube, and haven't found a good video explaining what motor to get and really how to replace it. Today we're going to show you how to replace the motor and which motor you need to get. So here's the motor. It's the Axle AX24004. It's a 27 turn. And remember, you need the 27 turn. I think there's another 13 turn on there, and my dad got one of those and it killed the battery in like not even 5 minutes. And it wasn't even on full blast. It's really powerful, but the battery lasts not even 5 minutes. With the 27 turn, battery lasts for like just how the original motor did, and it's just as powerful. As the motor goes out, I've noticed it's not as fast, but it still has the torque. So, as you can see, the motor still works. Just fine, except for it's not as fast, but it's still very torquey. So, right now, I'm going to take out this piece because that's what holds the motor in. So, I am going to go ahead and take out all of these screws right over here, and you're just gonna have to loosen these. You're not gonna have to take them all the way out, but you just have to loosen them. So let's go ahead and get these screws out. Okay, we have all the screws loosened up. Now, with all of the screws over here, you're not gonna have to worry about keeping them organized. They're all the same size, except for the one right here. It's very long. So, you just have to kind of wiggle this thing up. But before you do that, you wanna take out these wires. Now, when you have this lifted up, you just kind of wiggle out the motor. Once you have it out, what you have is you have this motor gear that you're gonna need and this part that you're gonna need. Now the motor fins will slide off here in just a second, but let's go ahead and get the cables disconnected. And now you just take apart these two screws, which this screw really. Now we have a very tiny sized Allen wrench. I'm not quite sure on the exact size of it. Then once you have the thing cracked loose, you can just easily twist off the screw. That's out. Very tiny. So we'll set it down right there. There we go. So this motor gear will go on here, and you have to line it up just right with the motor or else it won't slide on. But before you slide that on, you want to get this piece out. Alrighty, now you just kind of take this piece off, and there are 2 specific screw holes on here that you have to line it up on. And we have one more thing to get off this motor. The cooling fins. They pop right off, pop right back on. But you want to not put it on these right here because those need to face down. So this is the top right around this section. And you just pop it. Now we're gonna put the screws back in, and then we will get the motor gear back in. Alrighty, now we have this piece in, and I did want to mention, with the motor fins, you really don't even need to put these on because the motor has built-in fans. So whenever the motor rotates, it automatically cools it off. This motor really doesn't get hot at all, and that's one thing I noticed with this motor. It gets extremely hot. With this motor, you can have the cooling fins on if you want them, but they're not needed. Now I have the motor gear here, and we will just, and this is notched, the motor is notched, so you can't really put the gear on wrong. Now that she's lined up, you can just take your Phillips head screwdriver, just kind of gently knock it in there, push it all the way down, then you're gonna grab your itty bitty tiny screw, put her in there. And one thing that'll make your life a whole lot easier is running the Allen wrench over the motor to get it magnetized. So that way you can put that little screw in there and it'll be much easier. And once it's pretty tightened down, take off that end and then just kind of torque it. They're all nice and good. Alright, now that we have the motor all assembled and everything is in, I went ahead and took off the motor fans because I don't really need them. This motor stays so cool. So now you'll just lift up this end and you'll have to slide the motor down in just correctly. Put it, oh, I have it flipped over backwards. Slides down in there very nicely. You just have to line this thing back up. Once you have the motor slid down in there, you push this piece back on. Then you grab your screws from earlier and you go ahead and start installing them and tighten the ones up front back in. And now we are going to set our battery back down in there and install our battery holder here. And last but not least, plug in the motor. Alright, let's test this thing out. Alrighty, and then you can just tuck these motor cables back down underneath the zip tie, and you're all finished. And that's how you change out a motor in the 9206